and so the island remains. The King Tide was directed by Christian Sparks. It is written by William Woods and Albert Shin, with a story by Casey Coughlin and Ryan Grasby. Check out the respective IMDb pages for the full listens of their work. And this takes place in an isolated fishing village somewhere in Canada, I imagine around Newfoundland, based on a city that is mentioned later in the movie, where some people are living the idealistic lifestyle where they just want to be left alone. They want to live their lives and do what they want. They want to be free to do what they want any old time. Like, get a bunch of cod and just basically, I don't know, since there aren't that many people, probably get down to inbreeding because there aren't a lot of people to really get down and do the funky thing with. But that being said, a bunch of people have lived there for a while. We find out a little bit more about this village as time goes on, and there is a mayor, Bobby Clayne Crawford, and also there is Faye, Frances Fisher, who is in Titanic, and there is a woman named Grace, Laura Jean Karlstecki. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. She was in Nightmare Alley. I do want to say that she is a standout in this particular movie. And you also have a character named Marlon. Michael Grey Eyes. He doesn't have gray eyes, so that's false advertising. Disappointed! So, yes, the lifestyles of everybody, not the rich and famous, but everybody in this particular village, well, they're kind of upended. It's almost an upheaval because the arrival of an infant suddenly throws everything into chaos, at least initially, because they're like, what the hell is this child doing here in this boat, this overturned boat? But it turns out this is no ordinary child. She has mysterious, magical healing powers. And as time goes on, time goes on, turns out that she actually can heal people. They do visitations. She takes care of sickness, so they're not down with the sickness. Not fucking it up. Come on, get down with the sickness. They're not sucking it up. Come on, get down with the sickness. They basically are living the proper lifestyle. But as time goes on, it becomes clear that some people from the mainland may be curious about what's going on in this particular village. And that's about the story right there. So, this is on Amazon for a few bucks. I think I paid around $6.50 or $7 depending on the tax. And I decided to take the plunge because why the hell not? It sounded like an interesting story. And I will say, while the story does tread familiar ground, it does build some nice suspense. And it keeps building that suspense. And okay, King Tide, you have built enough suspense. You can just stop building already. No, you don't need a loft apartment. And then, in addition, like a garage where the other children can live in. You can stop building. This movie is 97 minutes long, and while I don't mind slow burn movies or just percolating and just gradually going and going until they eventually climax and pay off, there is a payoff, I will say, and this movie isn't bad. It's decently acted. And Isla, Alex Westleffer, she actually does a pretty good job as a little girl, as a central character here. Many thanks to Isla. It's almost cult-like because they don't want anybody from the mainland, but there are teases about what everybody may have gone through that led them to either, come to this village or possibly come back to this village. Like, strange things are going on, who knows? It's a little bit of a mixture of the village and the witch. It kind of reminded me a bit of the witch. No, not as some would say the Vivitch, even though that's what I do call it. Decided to call it by its proper name. But it doesn't get that spooky. It does have a couple horror elements, but it's more psychological horror than anything else. And yes, it does have a payoff, but the thing is, I don't believe the payoff fully justifies the build. I think that it had good ideas. I think there's a lot to recommend in this. It has great cinematography, but the biggest issue, besides the slow burn aspect maybe not fully paying off, is the fact that the nighttime scenes are so fucking dark you can't see what's going on. And I'm like, what the fuck? Light the shit better. Don't make it look unnatural, but at least give the viewers a chance to see shit. Christian Sparks does show potential as a director. He's done a few films and also some shorts. And the writing isn't bad. The thing is, I just feel by the time they finally kick it into gear, it's going to lose some people. And I can recommend this movie. It's well made. I just don't think it's necessarily that great. It's good, but a lot stops it from being great, in my personal opinion. I'm going to get into spoilers, though, because I have a few things to say. So it's on Amazon if you want to rent it. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, Grace loses a baby, apparently. That kind of leads to Isla coming along. Was filmed in Canada. As I said, it had to have been around Newfoundland because they refer to Pearl City a little bit later. I had to Google that, and apparently that is somewhere in Newfoundland. I did kind of find it funny. The boat was tipped over, despite the fact Isla was in there as an infant. She was okay. How did she get there? Like, what happened? Like, what's actually going on? They should have paid attention to the baby on board sticker, and then maybe the boat wouldn't have capsized. So they have a character named Holland. Oh, Mr. Holland, how's your opus going? That's a deep cut that absolutely nobody will get. And they have a school, they have a clinic, but they haven't had a need for the clinic because Isla's been healing people. But they have school, and so the island remains. It's a very isolated place. Junior! Yeah, I can't help but say it like Sean Connery in Indiana Jones. I just can't fucking help it. So they're cut off from the mainland for whatever reason. They wanted to live their own life, and I can't fault people if they want to do that shit, because there's no electricity. None. They run on candlelight. They run on fish. They basically run on... I mean, they have heating places. They do have technology there. Because it turns out Bobby is actually hiding a TV, so they do have electricity, or they just run it off batteries. Actually, I think they run it off batteries now, that I remember correctly. But... there is a guy named Bo who is apparently not afraid. Har Har, played by Aiden Young. He's alright. He's fine. Isla's on a schedule where she gets visitation rights with various people, and there's no, bad stuff that happens to Isla. Okay, not that kind of bad stuff, but some bad stuff a little bit later on. There's none of that happens, thankfully, with this child. I mean, that sadly would have added a little bit more horror to it and probably would have turned some people and turned them off their lunch. So, there's a boy named Philip, and essentially, Philip decides to do something stupid where, oh, you don't want to eat these poison berries? Well, I'll eat them, but then Isla will heal us. Oh, Isla's off fishing, and then Philip dies. And that kind of shatters the psyche of various villagers, including Philip's parents, and Isla suddenly can't heal because she's lived this idealistic lifestyle. And even though she doesn't know how she got there or who her parents are, the people that raise her are Bobby, who is the mayor, and Grace. I do have to say Laura Jean has some beautiful eyes. Good grief, she has captivating eyes. But, so, yeah, Philip's parents are pretty fucking stupid, honestly, for letting their kid do that. I mean, you can't pay attention to every single child, but maybe you probably should have educated your children to not eat the fucking berries. Oh, yes, and also there was an earlier scene where Philip and Isla actually Junior and Isla were looking. And they saw a boat coming from the mainland. The idea is they still get supplies. I don't know what they pay. I don't know if they trade fish for them, but they get supplies. Because later, Faye, the grandmother, after the healing properties aren't necessarily working, she has sleeping pills, old sleeping pills from a while ago. So they probably aren't good, but that's what they end up using on Isla to basically drug her to get her to bring fish up, because that's what she was able to do. Just put her hand in the water, bring up the cod, and all that. So, yeah, they have to drug her to basically bring her healing abilities up so she can't think, but she can heal and do this stuff. Okay? And then the citizens are getting upset. Ox, the natives are getting restless. Leave with your heat. And the idea is they maybe need to go to the mainland to get Isla help. Many of the citizens are not happy about this because they're like, no, we can heal her, we can take care of her, we can do this, she needs to stay here. Yeah, it's kind of a quick upheaval in all honesty, but Marlon's a little bit concerned. Bo is the town drunk, but had the clinic, so he decided he's going to open that back up because Isla's healing abilities are in question. I didn't know, wait, we have a clinic? So, yeah, the village is kind of just all cracking up at this point. I did note this movie needs to kick it in the gear, and that was around the 55-minute mark, where I'm like, okay, let's kick it into gear here. So, basically, they drug Isla, put her in a boat, put her hand in the water, and a bountiful cod display comes up. It's a cod piece, as it were, har har. Many thanks to Isla. And the idea is that suddenly Bo is like, we need to probably leave and do something. Like, we need to leave. We need to leave this place. We need not do this anymore. Any of this. But then Faye, or Nan rather, doesn't want to go back. I do have to say Frances Fisher actually does a pretty good job as, the grandmother who is caring about Isla, but also is very determined to hold on to her golden years and spend them the way she wants. And Bo drinks a lot, and his beer also gets poisoned with the poison berry. So he dies, the clinic burns down. Way too dark to see what the fuck's going on. A speedboat shows up with, an officer and a social worker from Pearl City. So basically, Emily is a social worker. The actress who plays Emily does fine. She talks to her, do your parents fight, this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, the officer is surrounded pretty much by all these citizens. Oh, you're supposed to stay, many thanks to Isla. Isla buying into all this bullshit. But then, one of the guys has he kind of looked like Josh Briggs, hopefully without the issues that Josh Briggs has. But he's got a gun, and due to the stupidity, we end up seeing Bobby getting shot. And Isla is isolated from Grace, by Grace, rather, and can't get down to heal her dad in time. And also Faye's like, hey, you need to agree to not take her away, and then we'll heal you. Okay, so you're just going to let somebody die, and whatever, it'll be on your head. But then Junior shows up with a gun. And then we get like a shotgun blast or a barrel blast. And suddenly, everybody's dead. Everybody except Isla. Junior also did radio for help before this. Getting to the boat, the banana speedboat, the Pearl City boat, and called for help. Because Isla's crying, she's upset, all the citizens are dead. And then basically some speedboats show up and we go to credits. So yeah, that's about it right there. It has a decent enough payoff, and there's good acting, good cinematography. I feel that there was a particular lack of stakes in this movie. So I give it a B for the positives. It could have easily earned an A-. I just feel that it didn't quite gel. So B. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rentlin. I'll see you soon.